So now we're going to start today's topic from overview of the Japanese market. So you can see some figures highlighting the situation of Japan society and the economy. So the GDP is still big, but now it's fourth ranked. Germany has taken over Japan this year, now number four. And the GDP growth is a bit higher than usual, maybe because of the recovery of COVID. Usually it's between 0 and 1%. And now I'm explaining some two shocking figures. The first one is GDP per capita. Actually, Japan was ranked world number two 20 years ago, but now it's ranked 30 something. So in the past, Japan was a very rich country, but now no longer. Yeah. And another shocking figure is median age, which is getting close to 50 years old. So Japan is the second oldest country in terms of median age, next to Luxembourg. So I have to say now Japan is getting poorer and older. So actually, our economy is dying, in other words. However, still many economic development organizations are interested in Japan. Now I'm going to explain those reasons. So this is a nominal GDP of Japan. Japan was growing in the last century, but they hit the ceiling at the end of last century and almost flat in the past two decades. And in 2008, not only Japan, but the world experienced the economic crisis. And in Japan, in 2011, big earthquake happened, and it's recovered, but the COVID hit, and we experienced another drop, and it's gradually recovering. But I have to say, in the past 25 years, almost no growth. Actually, I calculated the data, GDP data from World Bank, and I calculated the GDP growth in the last 20 years, like from 2001 to 2021. Actually, China recorded the four-digit growth, 1,200% in total, but it's 8% for Japan in total. So that is a reality of the Japanese economy. And this is the demographics of Japan. From 2008, I think, the population has started declining. And now, or in the past few years, we are losing 500,000 population every year. So, which is a, very significant impact on our economy because we are losing the number of consumers and workforce at the same time. So, and as a result, the percentage of elder people is increasing. Now, roughly one third are over 65 years old. So this is a reality of the aging of society in Japan. So it affects a lot on consumer markets. And this is a good example. Automotive market. When I was a university student, the number of cars sold in Japan was 8 million. But now it's been almost half. It's a huge drop. However, FDI people always try to attract Japanese automotive companies, factories to your region. Why? They're rapidly shrinking. And on the next slide, you can see the secret or the reason. Domestic sales and exporter are almost same. So they keep their domestic production almost flat. However, overseas production has increased. The data is somewhat old until 2019. And of course, we experienced a drop by COVID and recovering. But the trend of total production globally is increasing. So that is a reality. So most of the automotive companies don't rely on the domestic market of Japan. So you should not uh, pay a lot of attention on the domestic market because they are growing by global expansion and also export. And it's not happening only in automotive industry. This is our overseas sales ratio. 20 years ago, those were under 30%, but it's reached almost 40% level. Of course, we experienced a drop by COVID, but it'll be like this. And you can see top 20 manufacturers in terms of overseas ratio here. You can find the famous name Honda, Yamaha, Murata, Komatsu, Nissan. So they earn over 80% of sales outside Japan. So they don't rely a lot on the domestic market anymore. So when we talk about business in Japan, so let's focus on how Japanese companies are doing. But you should not pay a lot of attention on the domestic market. And this is a very interesting research conducted by AHAKA Japan, which is a Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Germany, the Japan office. So they distributed their questionnaire to their membership, German companies in Japan. And they are asked, which is bigger, A or B? B is the revenue of the Japanese subsidiary, meaning sales from Japanese companies in Japan. A is a revenue from Japanese customers outside Japan. And half of them answered A is greater than B. So they do business development in Japan, but they are more outside Japan. And more surprisingly, 20% answered A is 4 times bigger than B. So this is a reality. For industrial goods players, Japan is still very attractive market, while the domestic market is shrinking because Japanese manufacturers are growing by global expansion and export. So there's a big demand and growth in Japan. And sometimes you try to sell to Japanese companies in North America, India, China, or Europe, but usually decision makers are in the headquarters in Japan. So once you made a deal to a Japan headquarters, you will have a chance to deliver to their subsidiaries outside Japan, like in North America, Europe, Asia. So this is another reason why still foreign companies or economic development organizations are interested in Japan. So now I can say, uh, first, Japan is a good target for FDI promotion. It's simple. Domestic market is shrinking, not doing well. That's why most of Japanese companies are seeking opportunities outside Japan. This is because of the huge amount of FDI, outbound FDI from Japan to the world. On the trade side, I have to say, Japan could be a good target for industrial products. Again, many Japanese companies are growing by export and global production. So still, Japanese companies are very attractive customers for foreign companies. However, we don't recommend Japan as a destination for consumer products because of the shrinking market due to the aging and decreasing population. In addition to the very different consumer preference in Japan, which is very different even from other Asian countries like China and South Korea. So this is a very basic view on FDI and trade. So Japan is the biggest, second biggest investors next to the US in the world. So you should not ignore Japan on FDI side. And on trade side, uh, Japan is still attractive destination for industrial products, not consumer goods. So now I'd like to explain some statistics about trade and FDI. So yesterday, the government announced the surplus in the current account balance. So you can see there's some growth in import. Probably you must be interested in this figure if you are working on the trade side, but also export has increased. The reason is maybe because of inflation on products. So the basic structure of import and export wouldn't change dramatically. However, you can see the uh, big growth in prime income, which means Japan received a lot of dividends from the subsidiaries outside Japan. So it pushed up the primary income. So this figure indicates how Japanese subsidiaries outside of Japan are doing well. And this is the chart of import and export. You can see a big increase in import, but it is because of the weak Japanese yen current exchange rate and also inflation mainly on energy and raw material because Japan imports a lot of those things, intermediate products or resources. And it's a export by products. So except for passenger vehicle, most of products are industrial. Japan export a lot of industrial products to the world. Disconnected? 高山さん、just a moment.
Hasegawa-san, it looks like your internet connection is not good.
I will switch my Wi-Fi. Just
Okay. Yeah.
it's
Uh,
recovered now.
yeah, I can see you clearly. I can hear you clearly. So
Okay,
maybe,
okay.
yeah,
I will restart.
yeah, please.
So can you see my presentation or not?
No, I
Okay,
cannot see that. So please share it.
let me share it again.
Yeah.
Can you see the slide now?
Yes, page
Okay,
25. But maybe please go back a few pages because the such bad connection started a few pages before, like
maybe here.
yeah, from this page, yes.
Yeah. This is actually, I don't spend a lot of time to explain statistics, so I'm happy to send a presentation to you so you can read it in detail later. But we had the increase in import value, but this is because of the weak Japanese yen at the current exchange rate, and also inflation mainly on energy and raw materials because Japan imports a lot of things. So the basic structure wouldn't change in the past 10 years, I think. And those are major export by product categories. Except for passenger vehicle, most of the products are industrial. So Japan exports a lot of industrial products, while Japan imports a lot of material or resources, fuel, in some components, material, agriculture, not processed food, wood. So the basic structure of international trade of Japan is importing raw material or intermediate products and export of finished goods. So if you work on the trade side, please remember this structure. If you try to finish the product to Japan, you will face a lot of entry barriers and potential problems. And this is a outbound FDI from Japan. And of course, you can see the drop caused by COVID, but it's supposed to grow in again. Japan is the second biggest investor in the world, and to the US, the biggest investor in the past several years. And this is a FDI by region. Actually, the invest to Asia has declined, maybe because of the some economic problem in China. And now Japanese companies are mainly seeking opportunities in North America and Europe. And those are industries which invest a lot outside Japan. So in the past, most of them are manufacturers, but nowadays, non-manufacturing sectors are aggressively investing in foreign countries. However, you know, these guys are just accompanying Japanese company to a particular places. Their main business are working together with Japanese customers outside Japan. And wholesale, probably Uniqlo would be the good example. And they are now developing many stores all over the world. And especially in Asia, you can see many Japanese restaurant chains or retailers. And of course, it depends on the destination. Mining doesn't go to Europe. Maybe they go to Latin America or Australia. So please check the industries and correspond them with your target sectors. So unfortunately, you cannot find IT here. Maybe here or there. So this is very important to know. What types of industries have international capability in Japan if you work on the FDI side? So next, I'd like to explain some thriving sectors, which could be the target for either and both trade and FDI. The first one is automotive. Needless to say, this is the biggest industry in Japan, and almost 1/3 of the cars sold in the world are Japanese brands. So if companies are selling to automotive industry and ignore Japan, which means they lose 1/3 of the global market. So you should not ignore Japan on the trade side. And on the investment side, of course, automotive is one of the biggest FDI investors to the world. So you should focus on automotive on FDI as well. But please be careful. Japanese automotive companies have very exclusive supply chain network, which is called K-RETS. So, for example, Toyota Tier 1 suppliers cannot work together with Honda. So their supply chain is very exclusive and vertical. So once Toyota set up a factory, probably Toyota Group suppliers will be set up near Toyota factories. So it could be a huge result, but that's why there are a lot of competitions among states or among countries. So it could be a big deal, but very competitive. The second one is a semiconductor. Actually, Japan occupied roughly half of the global market share in 1980s or 90s, but now the share has been very small because the US, China, South Korea, Taiwan have taken over Japan. But now the government is supporting the industry to be 3 times bigger until 2030. And also the strong players are some supplier of material and production equipment. They have big global market share. So if you have strong industrial cluster of semiconductor in your region, it's a good idea to attract such a supplier of semiconductor materials or equipment if you work on FDI side. And also, many Japanese companies and also some Taiwan companies are investing in Japan. So there's certain demand of semiconductor-related products also in the domestic market of Japan. So this sector could be a target on trade side as well. And robotics. 46% of robotics sold in the world are Japanese brands. So they are aggressively expanding their business all over the world. So they could be a good target on investment side. And also, if you are selling some components, devices, or AI or IoT, which can be used in the robotics or automation products, Japan should be the good target on trade side as well. And then ICT, it's somewhat tricky. Actually, there are some demand in their industrial usages like IoT, AI. However, for office use software, Japan is very notorious, so-called as Galapagos. So Japan is detached from the rest of the world, and we have a very unique ecosystem independently from other world. So if you are selling industrial software or IT products, Japan could be the good destination on trade side. But for office use or personal use, Japan is not a good market. On investment side, actually, data center would be the good sector on, because now many big Japanese companies are investing in developing data center like big trading houses, Shosha, are seeking opportunities. I think I heard some news recently. Some big trading house made a big investment in the US for developing a data center with forming a joint venture. Biotech, needless to say, this sector could be a target on both trade and investment. Japan leads the world in some those products, regenerative medicine or gene therapy, and yeah, those things. So you should not ignore this sector. And healthcare, it's somewhat controversial. Because of the aging of society in Japan, nursing care is supposed to keep growing in the coming few decades. However, we are facing the labor shortage problem because our population is also rapidly decreasing. So our society needs a solution about some robotics or automation used in the healthcare sector, which could be the good target on the trade side. And renewable energy, actually, the renewable energy ratio in Japan is just 13%. And still, our government is planning to develop a new coal power plant, even though we set the zero emission at 2030. It sounds somewhat weird, but now the government is trying to develop those renewable energy projects. And I think offshore wind power generation would be the key to achieve such goal. And now big trading houses or those players are seeking opportunities, not only in Japan, but also outside Japan. So this sector could be the good target on FDI side. And if you have some unique technology in this industry, renewable energy, Japan could be the good target on trade side as well. And space industry, actually, it's still small, very new. And however, Japanese companies are seeking opportunities, mainly in the US. So if you have some good investment environment for space industry, this sector could be the target on FDI side. But on trade side, our government has a policy, all Japan team on space business. So there's some entry barrier on trade side. However, if you have very unique technology, it's worth for you to explore opportunities in this sector as well on the trade side. So there are a lot of good sectors which could be your target on both FDI and the trade side. However, the biggest problem is a competition. So now I'm going to explain how to make successful trade projects or delegations from this slide. So actually, our office had a lot of argument with our clients. And actually, some clients complained why it's difficult to arrange meetings in Japan. So I like to start with very basic theory to analyze the target market. So which is the ideal market for export support program? Obviously, this seems ideal. Demand is growing. There are less local competitors and low entry barriers. Probably they speak English, and that's good, easy. However, Japan is classified into here. So the GDP growth rate is very low and the population is shrinking, and so that the demand is weak, but the number of Japanese players is many in any sectors. You have to compete very strong local players in addition to the global players. The competition is fierce. And the entry barriers is really tough. Japan is very different from any other Asian countries or the rest of the world. So let me explain the entry barriers first. Probably many of you guys are aware of the fact few people can speak English. Of course, an importer must have an English speaker. However, usually people working in other departments or companies don't speak English. Of course, in Sony headquarters, it's easy to find an English speaker or to the headquarters, but probably your customers on trade side are not. Probably some engineers, purchasing people, or so usually they don't speak English, or some may speak, but they don't feel comfortable with speaking English. And the business culture is super conservative, and they are very risk averse, and they prefer non-direct communication, especially in front of a foreigner. They do a lot of mitigation or sugarcoating. They are too polite, and they always smile and say yes to you. So, but it doesn't mean yes. So it's somewhat tricky. And the culture is very long-term oriented. So usually between a manufacturer and a particular supplier, there are 40, 50, 60 years history. So it's not easy to replace them if on the trade side. So, and another problem is their excessive level of quality requirement. They love micromanagement and they ask a lot of questions, which is very annoying. So, and the distribution channel is very complex. Sometimes there are multi-layers between you and end users. And sometimes distributors literally distribute products only. They don't spend time and make efforts on selling your products. So, and sometimes distribution channel is very exclusive. As I explained, automotive sector is typical. Toyota has Toyota dealer network. Nissan has Nissan dealer network. Honda has its own. So in such case, it's very difficult to find your distributor. So that is a reality about a very exclusive distribution channel structure in Japan. So those are entry barriers, which is really tough for new market entrant to Japan. But if you have learning ability, you can solve those problems. However, the most important thing is economy. So this is a framework of industry life cycle. So Japan was on the growing stage in 1960s, 70s, 80s until the end of last century. And now, our economy is very mature, almost no growth, and some sectors are shrinking rapidly. For example, the market size of a department store has been less than half of peak time. So some if some companies want to sell their consumer products at a department store, I have to say your market has been less than half. So it's difficult to secure your product's place on their shelf because they are reducing the number of items now. So they are not interested in adding new items. So it's different. The opposite is happening here. The number of department store in Japan was increasing in 1970s, 80s, 90s. There are huge demand on foreign products. At the timing, it was a great opportunity for exporters from North America or Europe, but the situation has been changed dramatically. And in many industries, you can see oligopoly. On the growing stage, there are a lot of newcomers and a lot of competitions. Finally, some companies have survived and occupied most of the market share. As a result, that sector is dominated by a limited number of competitors, which is called oligopoly. In such case, and the market structure or market share is fixed, so it's very difficult to enter. So in Japan, many of the sectors are on this stage at the later stage of stable. And this is a difference in distribution channel structure. In the emerging market, everything is dynamic. The structure is changing. This guy selling to this guy, but next year they change the distributor. And the distributors are comparatively small and entrepreneurial. They are also changing. They are trying to sell to this factory and this factory. And the customers often change suppliers because of a lot of offers, different offers. Actually, the industry in Japan in 1960s, 70s was like that. The size of distributors was quite small. But now, distributor size have been mid to big usually because they have survived and they acquired small ones. And now many big distributors are selling hundreds of products. So, and also, after this kind of struggling, finally they will establish the long-term relationship. And this kind of channel are almost fixed. The good example is some group companies there, like Mitsubishi Group manufacturers sell through Mitsubishi distributors to Mitsubishi end users. And in such case, they just sell to a particular existing customers. So once you have a agreement with this guy, importers, probably they just sell to limited number of customers. So you cannot cover other customers through this distributor. So in Japan, this structure is really fixed and it's not easy to change. So in some cases, we recommend you have a few distributors. One is for this construction machinery industries, another is for factory automation industry. So you need to have some different distributors for covering whole Japan. Not because of the geographic issue, because Japan is not a big country, but because of this kind of culture. And when we work on trade side, actually, we think assessment of participating companies is the most important process. Actually, this process is almost same in any countries or states, in any economic development organizations, but there's a big difference about this activity. So if you send 10 companies in the delegation, randomly choosing delegates, so probably we'll have a trouble. Not easy to arrange meetings. Many of the Japanese companies decline their meeting offers. So usually we ask our clients to allow us to join the assessment process because some companies seem obviously not competitive in Japan. So in that case, usually we recommend they withdraw because Japan is not the only destination for that exporter. Probably they should focus on more suitable destinations. So in, in addition, this is important to control the expectation of your local exporters. Sometimes trade staff mislead. Japan is a rich country and a good destination for consumer products, but this kind of approach makes a lot of unsatisfied customers. So please be careful when you promote Japan as a destination on trade site. And we usually recommend evaluate those things. So if you are an American company, you should go to Europe first before Japan because there's a less entry barriers and vice versa. And this is very important. If companies' competitive advantages are pricing or service level or quality, it's very difficult to compete in Japan because made in Japan product is now much cheaper than made in Europe and made in US products. And usually Japanese suppliers' service level and quality is high. So it's very difficult for an exporter to compete with Japanese companies with those competitive advantages. So my recommendation is you focus on high-tech or unique technology. If there are similar products in Japan a lot, probably Japanese potential partners don't show interest in meeting such supplier. And if the product require many English speakers on the Japanese customer side, which could be a problem. And also, Japanese companies are very risk averse. They love studying case studies and customer references. Sometimes some companies want to launch their product first in Japan before the US and Europe, but it's not a good idea. Everybody in Japan will ask you, who are your major customers in the US and Europe, and how much sales do you have in your home country? So you can see some examples of good fit and poor fit products for Japan. Again, for IT, I recommend industrial products. So if you're selling office use or personal use, Japan is not a good market. And professional service, usually we don't recommend Japan as your destination because people don't speak English at all. You need to hire someone working on the ground in Japan, which will push up your investment to Japan. So it's not a good idea. Usually not a good idea for SMEs. And machinery, I recommend Japan to a supplier of intermediate products like components, device, and for healthcare, yeah, same intermediate because registration period of pharmaceutical and medical device in Japan is very notorious. Sometimes it takes 5 years to 10 years. So, and if you ask me to find a distributor who is happy to invest in registration on behalf of you, I have to say probably nobody will be happy to do that. So it's really tough. So that's why I recommend you focus on intermediate products in the healthcare sector as well. And for food, actually, there's a lot of demand for ingredients or agriculture. However, the market for foreign products almost doesn't exist in Japan. of course, there are some international supermarkets or like Costco, Kaldi, Seijuishi. However, it's less than 1% of the total retailing markets. So if you've been to Japan, probably you found no foreign products on the shelf of a normal supermarket or convenience store. So unfortunately, there's no appropriate distribution channel for SMEs. And for consumer goods, Japan is not a good destination at all. So you have to be careful to choose your exporters. Otherwise, it could be just a waste of time and money for those companies. And let me explain one successful case study. We worked on distributor search project for Lithuania embassy in Tokyo. And actually, our client did a great job. They spent a lot of effort for choosing good clients. All three suppliers are leather equipment manufacturers, and two of three has had a distributor in Japan and needed to expand more, find more distributors for covering different applications or different segments. And another one company didn't have any distributors in Japan, but we found there are no similar technology in Japan. So, and they allow us to work on this project for 3 months. So good, good choice of clients and sufficient time working on this project. So as a result, we made good success. Actually, one of them immediately reached an agreement with one distributor and exhibit at trade show together in a short time period. Usually, I say you should not expect immediate success in Japan, but they did. So this is a really successful case. So please be careful for choosing your clients and set their time frame. Actually, last year we worked for some European countries on derogation, and it was a very short notice. So we started working on the derogation just a few weeks prior to the actual event date, which was horrible. One of the most tough experiences for us. So in the next section, I'd like to explain how to make successful FDI. Probably I don't need to explain about the detail of hunter type approach and farmer type approach, focusing on developing hot leads, but they focus on making a good relationship. So culturally, there are two types, but obviously, this style is required in the Japanese market because potential investors are very farmers. They are very long-term oriented. They have a plan long-term. So if you visit them in this style, probably they don't like you. So be careful. And this is a typical decision-making process in Japan. Actually, Japan is very notorious with slow decision-making speed. So in some countries, people make a decision immediately, like in the US or China or Singapore. Yeah, they quickly make a decision. But in the big Japanese organization, we usually say potential projects underwater in Japanese, maybe under the surface in English. So the project is not solid at all. They are just collecting information of some potential destinations in Europe, North America, Asia, and joined some seminars, trade shows, collecting information for a year or 2, 3 years. They are, just collecting information and having informal negotiation internally. And suddenly, it's authorized. So during that period, many of our clients on FDI side don't recognize as a potential project. Of course, it's under the water. It's not solid. If you ask a question, how many number of jobs you plan to create in our region? Probably Japanese companies have no answer. They'll say, probably it could be a sales office hiring 10 or a small laboratory hiring 20, small factory hiring 30. So there's no solid project. However, if you ignore this process, uh, actually, at this point, they've already chosen their final candidates, usually. For the US, like 3 states, or in some Europe, have, for example, 3 countries in Eastern Europe. So it could be too late to support this project in some cases. So this is the reason why I recommend you spend time and effort for developing a good relationship with Japanese potential investors. So in Japan, if you like to develop FDI successful projects continuously, because you don't like the situation, one big success this year, but in the coming few years, you have zero successes. So probably you like to develop one this year, two next year, three, two, four, five. So if you expect such long-term goals, you need to develop a pipeline. So this size, the number of contact with potential investors is very important. Um, and you need to develop a good relationship with them. So once you have made a good relationship with them, they will contact you when the FDI project occurs in their organization. And then you will have a chance to support their projects. And finally, you will get success. So, and this is a potential problem for us. If your staff are hunters, they ignore such kind of not solid projects, and they'll say, "No, we are busy. We don't have time to prepare such information for you because it doesn't seem to be a qualified lead." However, again, we need to give good information to them under the water. Otherwise, we can't join the project when it realizes. So this is a very important point. And for investment promotion activities, you can see very traditional things. However, nowadays, we recommend digital approach, webinar and digital marketing. In the big seminar, we have to accommodate 100 people, for example, especially in the case we have a delegation led by the governor. So 10 audience in the big meeting room would be the disaster. So we cannot choose a specific industry in that case. Of course, it's good for branding of your country or state. However, lead generation wise, we recommend investment webinar with specific topics like healthcare, life science. Actually, we organized a webinar focusing on life science for one of our clients in the past, and we had 40 something registrations and had over 20 participants, which was a good success. And because many of them could be potential investors and could be prospects. And also digital marketing. Nowadays, people search if they want to investigate about investment environment. So you need to be shown up on the first page of Google search result. And we sometimes purchase database and send an invitation to contacts of potential investors for generating leads. So the combination of traditional way and digital will be the suitable way of investment promotion nowadays. So this is our case study. Actually, in the past, we worked for Birmingham in the UK. And it's somewhat ironic. The project was funded by EU. So it terminated in 2018 because the UK is not a part of EU anymore. And just after signing on the contract, Brexit happened in 2016. And it's tough Trade regulation between UK and the EU were uncertain. Nothing was clear. So it was one of the toughest experiences for me because nobody wants to set up their European headquarters in the UK because it's not a part of EU anymore. And but Birmingham, the city has a clear strengths. Location, 40 minutes away from London by high-speed railway, which was under construction at the time. I'm not sure if it has completed. And the low costs compared with London, that's why many back offices of big companies were moving from London to Birmingham at that time. And very diversified population and many universities and talents, they have clear strengths under the strong impact of the Brexit transition period. And finally, we set the target sectors. The most important criteria is there's no trade between UK and EU. So our target sector at the time were food service, IT, and R&D of life science because there's no trade. So unfortunately, we made zero success, but we developed solid projects and made 3 market visits. So I think we made a lot of efforts, and hopefully our client was happy with that. So this is our wrap up. So Japan is a good target for FDI, needless to say. And so I would recommend you focus on the sectors where your region has clear advantages and make a beautiful pipeline. You should not work as a hunter. Let's be a good farmer and combine traditional rates and digital marketing for generating leads. And on the trend side, Japan could be the good target for industrial products. So I recommend you choose the right companies who join the delegation or who receive export support program from your organization. This is the end of my presentation today, and it's over. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you
Yeah,
for your participation today.
thank you very much, Yasushi, for your presentation. And actually, so far, we haven't received any question. Maybe they might want to ask question later by
Yep,
email.
yep.
So in that case, please feel free to send an email to Yasushi. Also, if you'd like to receive today's presentation, likewise, please send a message to Yasushi. And so no more question, probably. Okay, in that case, okay, so now it's already time to close our webinar. So thank you very much. I would like to thank you very much for your time to join our webinar. And again, please feel free to contact us by email if you have any questions. And we are very much looking forward to receiving a message and answer to your questions if you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a great
you.
day and have a great evening. And
Thank you.
good night, Takayama-san.
Good night. And everyone, have a good day. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.